Yesterday was the first day of the NATO summit in Ankara, so I'm going to summarize it for you. First things first, Mark Rutte gives the opening remarks for the Defence Industry Forum. Now, he says about the whole GDP thing, about how NATO members should spend at least 5% of their GDP on NATO, and this should be done by 2035. And further comments that this could be done sooner as countries are making progress when it comes to their defence spending. After he then announces that the A330 MRTT MFF program has had an additional member, which is Finland, as Finland obviously recently joined NATO. We've then got these big announcements. So the expanded transport and air refueling fleet, new airborne warning and control system, and new uncrewed aerial vehicles. And this is all done to protect the territories of NATO in the air, essentially, from Russian threats, as Russia has recently been threatening places like Poland. Next, he has a conversation with Zelensky. Now, I am about to show you what he does say, at least some of it. So, in this first paragraph, Mark Rutte acknowledges the amount of lives that have been lost as a result of Putin. And then he says this is what the Russian president is willing to do, suggesting that the Russian president is willing to give up so many people just to have a piece of land. And then he credits Zelensky for being successful on the front lines. And basically, it's this whole conversation between Zelensky and Mark Rutte on the war. And Mark Rutte ensures Ukraine that they will be supported till the very end and they will keep pushing for Ukraine to have NATO membership. Also at the Defence Industry Forum, Radmila Shekarinska was there. Radmila Shekarinska is the Deputy Secretary General of NATO, and contracts were signed. Now, the contracts were signed not only to boost the economy of NATO, but to closen the ties between NATO and certain companies like Airbus. And this is the tweet that she writes. She wrote about how space is crucial for NATO infrastructure. He also has a meeting with the president of South Korea, as South Korea is major to the NATO alliance. Even though they're not a part of NATO, they are one of NATO's allied countries that they are actively working with at the minute, as well as the European Union. Now, within this conversation, Mark Rutte emphasizes the importance of the European Union on NATO and that their alliance is like there just to provide protection against Russia, but also as well to make sure that Russian influences don't get in at all, if that makes a ton of sense. Radmila Shekarinska then has a meeting with foreign ministers on the Istanbul Cooperation Initiative with not only NATO members but also allied countries. And within that meeting, the Gulf countries were there, like Qatar and the UAE. We then obviously have the ministers of defences meeting. Now, this guy here is in the white is Admiral Dragon, who is basically the chair for the military committee within NATO. So he oversees all the military exercises and just kind of anything to do with military personnel. In the evening, we then have the social reception slash state dinner that all the leaders and their spouses have. And if you notice, Spain's president slash prime minister, Pedro Sanchez, didn't arrive with his spouse. And do you want to know why? Because her passport got suspended. That's right, Pedro Sanchez went alone to this dinner, and it's actually crazy. While this was all happening, Radmila Shekarinska and Admiral Dragon were, as I kind of didn't mention in the previous thing, were having working dinners. So the meetings that they were having, as I kind of mentioned previously, were actually working dinners. That's right. You see people work while they have dinner, which is actually crazy. But I hope this NATO summit summary is good. Honestly, I can't wait to show you day two, which is today. I might film it later or tomorrow, so stay tuned.